I am so delighted to introduce you to Kate Brockmeyer, founder of Off the Page Co-Learning, a microschool located just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, that now serves nearly 200 students ages 4 to 17. Kate launched her microschool in the fall of 2022 and has seen the program's popularity soar since then. She's really attentive to the needs and wants of the homeschooling families that she serves and is continually adding and adapting programming, including introducing a new career and technical education program for teens 13 and up this month. So, Kate Brockmeyer, welcome to the Liberated podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I had the opportunity to interview you for my recent Forbes article looking
Yeah.
at the ways in which microschooling and alternative education programs can be particularly valuable for boys who are often sort of left behind, increasingly so
hmm
in the conventional
Yeah.
education system. And so I'm hoping we can talk a little bit more about that in today's conversation. But I'd love to start with sort of your journey to alternative education, which was sort of unexpected for you. Your kids were in Catholic schools, kind of a conventional classroom environment up until COVID. And then, like so many families across the country, that kind of disruption resulting from COVID and the COVID response led you to think about other education options and ultimately to
Yeah.
build some new options. So tell us what kind of what changed for you? What was that disruption like for you after COVID that sort of led you to think about new ways of approaching teaching and learning?
Yeah. So I had worked 20 years ago for St. Louis has a really great special education program integrated within our county school system. And I thought when I was 18, 19 years old, I was going to be a teacher. Like that's what I was going to do. And I got a job in ABA and I started working within the school system back then, 20 years ago. So it does all come full circle, right? But I realized really quickly that what we were doing for our students wasn't effective, and the toxicness of being in the school system for me, I wasn't a good fit. I was an entrepreneur. I was a solution driven person. And the idea of continuing to allow kids to repeat the same thing every day with no progress didn't work for me. So I sort of bounced out of that. I dabbled in owning a respite care company. I was a photographer for a while, not a great one, but a really good salesperson. I owned a women's networking organization. And then all of these things entrepreneurially just sort of became what I did. And one thing kind of led into another. And so when COVID hit, we were frustrated pretty quickly with our school. Like, it hit in March. Our kids were out in May. We called every week. I was like rallying people together. I'm like, we have to call, we have to pressure. These kids cannot go back to school in masks. Like, this is ridiculous. But I backed down and rolled over in August of 2020, I guess, and sent them to school in their old Navy mask and, did all the things. And so by the time that the fall of 21 into the spring of 22, we were still masking. The vaccine was such a huge push in our Catholic school. And I started to really feel like they were their kids and not my kids, and that I had no voice in how I wanted my kids treated or anything. So I actually had gotten really active in our capital, and I went out there on a Tuesday night or Tuesday, which is education day in our capital. And I went out and I was advocating for just the freedom of choice. Like, I don't care whether you do it or not, but just give us the freedom of the choice to do it, to not mask our kids if we wanted to. And everybody in our capital that I spoke to on both sides of the fence all homeschooled. And they were like, oh, yeah, when I have kids, I'll homeschool too. I won't send my kids through the system. And I was like, wait, what? That was like a. I had read your book. I had read Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. I had already been opened up to all of these other learning educational hybrid opportunities. And I looked around in what was available in my community, and everything modeled what was going on in the school system. They were giving grades, they were testing the kids, they were putting them in grade level classes. And I was like, this is not it. And we had been cut like so hard and quickly from our Catholic community that was so devastating for us at the time because we'd been so invested that I was like, I have to create something today, immediately for my kids that's going to work. And so the next morning, Contrary to my husband's delight, I actually sent an email at about 5 o'clock in the morning. I let that man happily go off to work for the day, and I unenrolled our kids. And so later in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock, he got an email back, because it's all in the same system. And it was like, we're so sorry to hear that you've decided to unenroll the kids. However, you can pick their stuff up on Monday. And I was like, cool, see ya. And so my husband was like texting and calling, and it just sort of like all fell together. But all of the restrictions and the struggles, even just academically, that we had, where it was always your kid is behind. None of the other children are struggling this way. Whereas now I see it like we all have to work as a team, parents and educators together. It's not the child, it's the system. So that's kind of how we got to like where we are a little bit now.
Amazing, Kate. So, just in terms of clarifying the timeline, you pulled the
Yeah.
kids out, and that would have been in sort of late 2021, early 2022, that winter
We pulled
time.
in April of 22.
22. Okay. And
Yeah.
then you launched the Microschool that fall. So what were you doing this in the kind of the interim period? Did you know you were going to create a Microschool? Did you think you would just sort of homeschool for a while and see what else was around? What was happening then?
I realized very quickly that my ADHD and my house of children, I have three boys, 14, 11, and 5, that we were not the kind of people, we weren't cradle homeschoolers, right? We were what I call boutique homeschoolers. We are like late to the game, realizing time is like quickly running out with our kids' education, their confidence, their soul development. And we needed to like make some real change really quickly. And so we sat down at the table one time with a curriculum, and we sat, and by about 45 minutes later, we all were like, this is the worst. I don't want to do this. I was like, me either. I can't. Like, all of a sudden I was like, what did we do? We deschooled really hard. Probably really about for the last 2.5 years. I deschooled myself intentionally. Like, we did trips and museums and science experiments and documentaries and books and no curriculum. I am not a curriculum advocate for a wide variety of reasons. And the longer I do this, the more I realize how much more a hater I am of curriculum. Um, Unpopular opinion, but whatever. So we we ended up running summer camps over the summer. And a bunch of my friends, when I pulled, were like, you're going to start your own school. And I was like, I am never starting a school. Absolutely not. Like, I will never have a kid sit in a desk feeling the way I felt as a kid. I barely graduated high school because of my math grades. And my counselor changed my math grade, basically being like, you're going to go out in the world and do really cool stuff. This one geometry class shouldn't keep you from doing those things, right? Which is such a cool little part where now I look back and I realize that's when I probably started to realize that the system is not as in control of the system as they believe they are, right? We give them that power. So I ran these summer camps. We started out in the fall of 22 with one half day program. That was a Missouri history program. And it was really just cool stuff I wanted to learn about. Like, I wanted to learn about Lewis and Clark, which is St. Louis is a big hub for that. I wanted to learn about Mary Meacham. We have a whole area of town that's Meacham Park. And I wanted to know, like, why? Why do we have Meacham Park? Why didn't I ever learn this? Mary Meacham, total baddie, like such a cool lady. All in the slave industry, her spot on the riverfront where she helped people cross the river. And so I wanted to tag our what we called co-learning at the time, which is a collaborative learning environment, parent and child. I'm pretty sure I stole it from the back of your book and in one of the last chapters there, but tweaked it to our own. And then we did a field trip every other week. And that's how we started our fall semester. So we started with 12 families and had 40 by December.
Wow, 12 families and then 40 families by December. That's
Yeah, in
amazing.
12 weeks.
So I want to dig more into that, but I'd love to just hear a
Yeah,
little bit more about the summer camps because I think that summer camps or after school programs can be a great launching pad,
yeah.
right, for microschool founders. It gives you a little bit of flexibility. Often they're easier to start than a school, kind of in terms of regulations. There's sort of less commitment that parents have to make to sort of test the waters in these summer programs. So, what was that like running the summer camp? in terms of location, in terms of did you have to comply with certain regulations? What was that process like?
Yeah, we sort of just ran under the radar. Which, the unfortunate part of this industry is that no one is really caught up to what you're doing. So the state isn't caught up, the rules aren't caught up, the laws aren't caught up. And so you really kind of have to be a rebel. You sort of have to be like, cool, I'm gonna run first. And if you slap my hand later, then I'll apologize profusely and hope that you will forgive me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's that sort
I
of
want to just
permissionless education, right?
guys,
Yeah.
wait, like, we'll just figure it out. I really wanted to build relationships. And so I had felt called to run summer camps for a few years for my kids. Because again, what I felt was out there just didn't feel great enough for them. I thought it could be so much cooler than what people were doing. And I also needed homeschooling mom friends. Like I felt like I didn't know what I was doing for my kids and I needed some support. And so we actually did family style camps.
Mm.
We ran 5 of them, I think, 25 families at $100 a family. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to noon. I had gotten really involved with a Moms for Liberty group in the middle of early COVID and had run with them. So I'd gone to a few of their meetings. They were trying to get a group started in St. Louis. It never really took off, but I had met a pastor there and he had a church near my house. And so I like went back to him after I pulled the kids. I'm like, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to run some summer camps this summer. They homeschooled also. They'd recently moved here. So all of the things sort of just like fell into place. And we ran like science camps and a detective camp, like a forensic camp. Um, we did another one that was just sort of like a roundabout, like whatever I wanted to do that day is what you got, So it's like organized chaos, but super chaotic, right? And so I met all
And
these
did you
amazing
run it?
people.
Where did you run it, Kate? Would you run it from your home?
Nope. So we ran it from the church.
Oh, from the church. I
Um,
see. You said that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And so he didn't charge me that summer because he was like, yeah, I was like, I just need to like test my concept and see
Got it.
if this will work for you. It's good marketing. You'll drive in foot traffic that you're not getting, so I sort of used my business life experience to kind of leverage some of that with him. And it did. It brought in new traffic for him. And people were like, I didn't even know this church existed. So it was a good win-win. And after the camps were over at the end of the summer, people were like, so what's next? What are we doing next? And I'm like, well, on Tuesday mornings, we're going to start this like history program, all ages. You guys should sign up. I think we charged, I think at the very beginning, I think we did 13 weeks and I think it was like $15 a week per family. And I would just literally show up with a box of supplies and was like, here are the 3 activities we're going to do. I would like tell the moms, we split the kids up and had like littles upstairs and bigs downstairs and we just ran with it. And it was wild and crazy. And we do about 40 minutes of activities to begin with. It was 9:30 to 11:30. 40 minutes, 45 minutes of activities, 30 minutes of playtime, 40 minutes, 45 minutes of activity. And that like filled up our whole time and put a huge emphasis on being outside and playing together and all the things. So it worked out really well.
So then how did you grow from 12 families, kind of at the start of fall in 2022 to 40 families by, I think you said December?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
what
going into
what
our
was that
January, go
like?
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, what do you attribute that rapid growth to?
Constantly posting on social media. Like just constantly posting, sharing all of our um I've been in marketing for a long time, digital strategy, and pulling the curtain on your micro school and anything that you're doing in business is huge. Even like simple little things like, you know, getting in the car with a friend to go to a museum, posting a photo of my kids at the museum, posting an activity that we were doing, sharing the oh crap that did not work. The internet lies to you all the time, and just really sharing like the good, the bad, and the ugly with people. I started one thing that I always recommend for any micro school owner to do is to start your own Facebook group.
Mm.
For your families registered and like the general public in your area. We do have like a little questionnaire that they fill out and they give us their email. We have 1,800 families in there and it grew pretty quickly. Like from the time I launched the group, it used to be STL Learning Excursions. So when I launched it in like July of 22 through February or March. I mean, people were joining left and right all the time. I was tagging. St. Louis has a very vibrant homeschooling group, but it's very, you either are a Christian homeschooler or you are a secular homeschooler, and there's really no like middle of the road. When we first launched, I thought we would be Christian. Very quickly, I realized that we were secular, and now we're just this modge podge of amazing, incredible people that are like, I always say we're like good humans raising good kids. So, like, what you do behind closed doors with your kids, what you indoctrinate them in, what you teach them is your job and your business. Like, it's not my job to do that. My job is to help you raise innovative, confident kids. And that is like that's where I'm at these days, girl.
I
So,
love it. Amazing. And clearly there's a demand for that sort of middle
yeah,
ground that attracts both secular and faith-based homeschoolers kind of come
yeah.
together in this microschool environment. You know, it's interesting, Kate. I had Colin Hitt from the Prime Center at St. Louis University on the podcast recently to talk about the growth in homeschooling, specifically in Missouri. Research that he has done to show that homeschooling has increased by 6%, large gains since the pandemic, most growth happening there. In fact, now more homeschoolers in Missouri than in the two largest school districts combined. So, is that reflecting what you're seeing as well? Are you seeing families sort of new to homeschooling like you were?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have 28 families on our wait list for next school year. I would say that I get an average of 4 to 5 inquiries a day. I actually just got an inquiry from a girl today that lives in Hannibal, Missouri. She's pulling her kids in May. She's like, I'm considering getting a hotel room every week, this summer and coming down and staying and all the things. Can I come every other week? Like, how can I navigate this? I have
Wow.
families that drive up to 2 to 2.5 hours to come to our programming, which you know, St. Louis is a major metropolitan area, but people are done. They're over it. They're tired of going to parent teacher conferences and being told your kid's behind, your kid's behind. And then when you ask for a solution, they're like, well, I don't know what you can do at home. Cool. Well, what are you doing in school? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm doing the same thing for everyone else. I don't know why it's not working for your kid. But they're having that same conversation with 21 out of 25 families, right? And social media is such a huge element where homeschooling is becoming not scary and hard. You're not secluded into your basement, just teaching. Um, you have to be, I think back in the day, we all thought you had to be this knowledgeable person to homeschool, and a lot of the curriculums do walk you right through everything. There's so many online options. And I think people constantly posting how thankful they are that they did pull their kids for the 10% of the kids that figure out the game of the industrial education model. It's a game. Every year it's a new teacher. Every year that teacher has new things that annoy them, things they love, how they grade, right? And there are some kids that can really figure that game out, and they are so good at changing every year and figuring it out and then winning the game for the year every year, right? And then you have 75-80% of kids that don't and can't, right? Um, and so, yeah, I think the growth is, I always tell people it's the fastest growing industry in the country. I expect it to continue to astronomically grow, especially as more and more micro school and hybrid learning centers come to the table, creating this opportunity that didn't exist before. And that every one of these schools beats to their own drum. So they actually end up like filtering in their own ideal student and then creating a successful track for that student, which is what brought us into that like Forbes magazine article where I'm like, hey, listen, I know about this. I all the things, but I know about boys and ADHD and being in their learning environment and how to tailor to them in that capacity.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that. So again, St. Louis University data showing over 60,000 homeschoolers in Missouri again, rapid growth since the pandemic, not slowing down. Researchers at the Johns Hopkins University Homeschool Hub finding similar results, looking at Census Bureau data showing that homeschooling in the fall of 2023 was actually higher than in the fall of 2022. So what was, perceived to be maybe just a pandemic blip is not. This is a
Yeah.
sustained and growing movement towards homeschooling and microschooling. And you talked. We'll talk a little bit more about boys and some of the mismatch in conventional education and the needs of children. But why now, though? Do you think? Why are parents just now making the leap? Because of course, homeschooling has been around and gaining popularity for decades. There's been microschools. What do you think has happened over the last, say, I guess 5 years since COVID?
Yeah.
To really sort of supercharge this interest among families for something different in education.
I mean, I think it's a couple things, right? I think we've had this pressure of if you're a 40-year-old person, I just turned 41, and you're trying to hire people for your company, right? And you're realizing that there's this entire generation of people who don't think they should have to work. They think they should be making $25 an hour when they have zero skills for what, you want to hire them for. And you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you get trained, but we start at 12 an hour." And they're like, "12 an hour? Ew, no, thank you." There's lack of accountability, there's lack of innovation, they're not very solution driven. Not all of them, but there's a good chunk. And I think that a lot of people are really recognizing that their coworkers, their employees, all of these things, that this isn't working. It didn't work for them. They can look back at their own life and their own school experience and be like, yeah, I barely made it, but I went on to become a welder and I'm killing it. Or I went on to become a truck driver and I did a great job. Or, all of these things. And so you have this blend of these 35 to 50-year-old parents right now who are like, then we have all of the other detrimental um, situations that are happening in schools where you see friends post about bullying, you see friends post about these active intruder alerts, right? And you're looking at your 4-year-old and you're thinking like, absolutely not. My 4-year-old is going to go sit in that building and being a sitting duck waiting for someone because our mental health system has failed them, right? There's so much knowledge and awareness and information and content. So the average American that's on social media sees an average of 15,000 pieces of content a day, right? So we know that algorithms work based off of what you're interested in and how you engage. So let's say you watch one 30-second video on unschooling, boom, you're going to start getting hits all the time about unschooling, right? And some of that I think is it sort of becomes a little bit of like a suffocation for people where it becomes normal because all of their social media content is revolving around getting your kids out of school, unschooling,
Mm.
microschooling, homeschooling, right? And the more that they dabble and kind of tickle the monster, as I teach my kids about in regards to marketing, like the more that you engage and play high five and patty cake, the more that content is going to, the algorithms will push that content to you, right? So it becomes organically natural. I think for a lot of young parents that maybe are in their kids are 0 to 5, I think schools that originally had 10 kindergarten or 10 kindergarten classrooms are in for a rude awakening coming into the next 3 to 5 years. Because I can tell you right now, we run a forest school program. And if I had the staffing and really the bandwidth, which right now I really don't have the bandwidth for more than what I have right now. But if I did and the space, I could run forest school 5 days a week and people would pay and I would have a line out the door for that, 3 to 5 to 6-year-old age range because they're not putting their kids in the system, right? So I think all of those things kind of culminate both in their own experience, what they're seeing in employees, their siblings, and where they want the world to go and where they feel like it's not going, is playing a huge role in this mass exodus of
Yeah.
leaving the system.
Yeah, such a great insight, Kate. Just really this sort of normalizing of alternative education models and especially younger parents
Yeah.
now. feeling empowered to look at other options. And thanks to entrepreneurs like you, finding more of those options. So tell us a little bit more about how the Microschool works now with your roughly 200 students. What sort of offerings do you have? How frequently are families attending? Everyone is considered a homeschooler who attends, but they can come quite frequently. So tell us how it works.
Yeah, so we're a little chaotic because I really didn't know what I was doing when I started. And every semester, we just open up new programming as our pain points develop. My kids are freshmen in high school, technically a sixth grader and the kindergartner, which when I was birthing all of them, I was like, this is the worst, like, why is it like this? But now I really see that being able to create high school programming, middle school programming, and then early elementary, early ed programming has truly changed the game. Having all
Mm,
boys also truly has changed our micro school journey and experience. So it's a little bit a la carte right now. We offer programming 4 days a week. We have forest school. We still have our collaborative learning environment for parents on Tuesdays. We teach around the world in the morning and biomes in the afternoon. Everything we do is hands on. So we are a very minimal, zero worksheet environment. We don't really put a lot of pressure on the kids of writing or reading out loud. This is not like you're being tested on your um, academics in this super harsh, degrading kind of way. Our goal is soul development. We are getting a little bit more into academic expectations, but we're actually going to open a whole separate arm of some things that'll drop in June of this year, which I'm excited about. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But um, the needs of the industry are changing consistently and for families, right? So we have our career and technical education program that we did where we had the kids fill out 13 and up, filled out this, it's called mynextmove.org. It has an interest-based um, would you rather game. Would you rather do an Excel spreadsheet or would you rather create kitchen cabinets, right? So they all did that. Then they got an industry that was their top industry. Then we went into Chat GPT and was like, give us 25 jobs in this industry. And then we took that information, the kids narrowed it down to one they want to deep dive for the semester. And then I went and created an educational track for them over our 16-week semester where everybody's going to get their OSHA 10. They're going to get first aid CPR
mm,
certified. They're going to get mental health 101. And then they're going to get specific certifications um, to their track. So, like my student that's really into building, he's going to build a project every month. He's going to get his OSHA 10. He's doing a basic construction like 101. We're creating what we're called my dad was a business owner, and networking was something that he hammered into my soul every single day of my life. So I'm going to teach these kids how to create their Power 10 network, which is 10 people within an industry that you can leverage, engage, connect with. And the goal for them is long term. I still have people that my dad connected to me to when I was 15 that I could literally text right now with any question in the world, and they would be like, blah 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 blah. We've scratched each other's backs over the years in those relationships and those connections, and that kind of education and knowledge is like learning to ride a bike. Nobody can ever take away from you the ability to network or the ability to sell, and those are two skills that are huge, right? So we've got that going on. We've got our Spark program, which is Spark Skills, which is for 9 to 12 year olds. STEAM, they're doing mega cities this spring. I'm so excited. They're learning how to build, cooking and sewing. And then Thursdays, they're going to do like more history, language arts. So like wax museum and all kinds of stuff like that. And then as you get into our little guys, we have our Kindle program, which is like show and tell, wildlife conservation this spring, and something else. And then our Ignite program, which is our youngest kiddos, runs half days on Mondays and Wednesdays. And Ignite is all about igniting curiosity in little people so that learning becomes a tool and not a chore, right? So they do their classroom work on Mondays and they do outdoor school on Wednesdays. And it's similar to a forest school, but we call it outdoor school because we don't have a lot of woods that they can actually access. So we do what we can with our slow decline down to a pit. We're like, oh, don't go too far. But it's great for them to be outside all weather style. There is no bad day. So bad weather day.
Oh, it's just so great. And I know you told me when I interviewed you for the Forbes article, the majority of your students are attending full
Yeah,
time, which is that 4 day a week option. It is a drop-off program, even though the students are homeschooled, which is why microschooling can be such a game changer for families because it's sort of the
right,
best of homeschooling with the flexibility and the freedom that families have their children learn outside of the home consistently in a set
right.
place. Are you located in that same church, or have you outgrown
No,
that?
so
What
we
is
moved. We
okay?
did move over the summer, and now we're actually looking to move again.
Mm,
We are roughly We're about 15 to 20 minutes southwest of St. Louis. And it's a great little spot. It's a great area. It was a perfect fit for what we needed as we were rapidly outgrowing our previous church. However, we are now looking again to move a little bit more central area. We pull families literally in a 2-hour radius of St. Louis. And, you know, our north side friends, we would love to move a little bit up for them and really for our own like staff. We pull staff from all over the place, and we took what we got and people followed us, and that was amazing, and I am forever so grateful for them because this is like my crazy insanity idea, and my like relentless confidence is what has gotten us here. But it's their investment and it's their desire to want something else, and their kids they very quickly see confidence growth in their kids. So we sort of like have created this mod podge of all these different styles of life where kids are their own people and we treat them that way. Shoes are optional. Drink when you're thirsty, eat when you're hungry, go to the bathroom when you have to. There's no lining up quietly, walking through the hallway. Like outside time is a high priority, heavy work is a high priority. STEM challenges and art and computer skills are like, minimal for us. I figure you're a digital native, you have plenty of time to figure that out when you need to.
mm,
But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for them that doesn't exist anywhere else, you
mm.
know.
Yeah, and
So
you said that the real catalyst for creating this microschool was your boys,
yeah.
and that was sort of the topic of my Forbes article about why alternative education models and microschooling in particular can be extremely valuable for boys who just often are left behind in conventional classrooms. In the article, I quoted you as saying that you started the microschool because you realized boys aged you said, I realized as my boys aged that the industrial education model was not designed for their needs. When I pulled them from their school, their self confidence was very low, their passions were non existent, and they were just wandering around. What sort of transformation have you seen in your boys and in your other students since pulling them from a conventional classroom for the microschool?
It like totally chokes me up because when I asked my kids when I pulled them, what do you want to learn about? They were like, my teacher will tell me. And I'm like, cool, well, I'm your teacher now. So like, what are we gonna do? And I created this thing when we very first pulled to D school. It was 52 post-its, and I put them all up on my dining room wall. And they just like I would write in as many things as I could, and then we would do, art and science and all the things around that one subject, right? And it took my kids a long time to really like get out of the mode of school and the Catholic school system, which in itself is a whole different level and layer of indoctrination, right? And, when we signed up, I thought that's exactly what I want. Of course, I want kids rooted in faith. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't feel like I was equipped for that. So we sent them to Catholic school. And there was so much that we believed that we were getting for what we were paying, right? And as all of those layers have fallen off, and gone away, I've realized that we weren't getting any of what we thought we were getting, right? And really what I was getting was a shell of the human that I had birthed. And I'm a pretty like vibrant go-getter. I'm like, I walk in the room and people are like, who's that? what's she doing? What's going on? Like I take a lot of space, right? And I realized that my kids didn't have that. And so, I today is a great day for this because I was thinking about, what impact this has all had on my kids. And my oldest son right now is at this moment sitting in his bedroom putting together like 1,000 piece engine to a car. It's like plastic and it's like a kit that you put together. But he's like putting that together right now. I mean, he's definitely had frustrated moments this morning doing it. He's never done something like this. He's never opened up the hood of a car and looked at an engine. Like, this is completely new and out of the box for him. His frustration tolerance has improved so much in 2.5, almost 3 years, that at 14, he's like, I've never done this, but I want to, so I'm going to, right? My middle son this morning was out shoveling driveways, making money. He made $30 shoveling driveways because we're in the middle of a huge snowstorm out here. And my 5-year-old he's feral. Okay. He's like born 2019, survived COVID. He is a different beast. He came up to this morning, is like, hey, can you put this Nerf gun in the back of my shirt? I was like, what? So I opened up his shirt and I stuck the Nerf gun in there and he's like, yeah, got it, thanks. Like walks off, Um, confidence is not confidence is something that I think kids are born with. And I think it's something that our society, our schools, and their experiences in life chisel away at all the time. When Rockefeller said he wanted a nation of workers, not free thinkers, the system is working. Like what Rockefeller wanted from the school system of destroying kids' confidence, keeping them in the box, not wanting them to be the kind of people who question authority, not wanting them to be people that go out and tackle hard things and follow their dreams. That system is working, but it's scary that it's working, right? And so when I look at our students, I'll tell you for a hot second, we do this experiment with all of our kids every fall. And I line them up in a line. And the kids that have already done it, I pull them. They're not allowed to do it anymore. And they're not allowed to say anything. They got to leave the room because they'll giggle and ruin it, right? And I line up all the kids that are new to me. And I ask the very first kid, what's 2 + 2? And they say 4. And then, or they, I say, what's 2 + 2? They say 4. And I say, wrong, it's 5. And then I go to the next kid and I say, what's 2 + 2? And they say, 4. I'm like, wrong, it's 5. And I go to the next kid and I say, what's 2 + 2? By the third kid, every time I've done this, they're like 5, 5, 5, 5, all the way down the line, right? And then they get their very first Miss Kate rant because I ream them about how going against what you internally know to be truth is wrong. Like I'm an authority in your life in this environment, but if I am inherently wrong and and it goes against your internal truth, you have to be the kind of person who's going to stand up for what you know is right, right? And so that's a huge element of what we push. And that kind of breaks their confidence down maybe a little bit right out the gate, which isn't necessarily the intention, but it does make all of them think, oh, she's right. I rolled right over. And then I go into a thing about peer oh my gosh, like when your peers convince you to do something, right?
Peer
And
pressure, yeah.
how peer pressure, thank you, totally blip from my brain. How negative that is, right? And how detrimental that can be for your life when you don't trust your gut. And I think it's those little things like that that build for our learners like, hey, wait a minute, this is an environment where they actually care more about me than I realize. These people aren't teachers. I always say, like, I'm not a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a business owner that was called to do this, to support you to become the best version you are meant and called and designed to be. So some of my confidence, I had a little girl come to me last year that mom was like, she's so shy. She's never going to open up. She has to keep her phone because we take their phones and put them in a phone hotel all day. She has to keep her phone. She has to be all these things. And within about 3 months, she came back to class and all of her hair was chopped off. And she was like, I feel so good about myself from being here with you that I cut all my hair off. And I was like, for you, and it's the little things about them where you start to see them support a peer that maybe they didn't do before, or that they do stand up. No, Miss Kate, I don't want to do that. all right, well, I'll give you that one, and so some of it's a good ebb and flow. We really work hard to build a good relationship. We show up at our students' sports games, at their plays, at their if they play a musical instrument. I've gone to more sport king events, wrestling and hockey and basketball, and all of my staff does it. And their excitement of seeing us there in that way also lets us know that, like, we're showing them that we love them in all aspects of their life, not just on our property, on our campus. So I think that all kind of like comes full circle.
Yeah, I love that. So, I'd love to shift gears a bit as we start to wind down. You mentioned you're a
Yeah.
mom and a business owner, and I want to talk a little bit more about the business side of being an education entrepreneur. Now, running this growing entity with, 200 students and more on the waiting list, new programs coming down the pike. What advice would you have for aspiring education entrepreneurs to sort of connect education with business acumen, right? You're running a small business, something that for
Yeah.
many education entrepreneurs they may never have done before. What thoughts or insights do you have for them?
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing is to take the risk. Like, take the risk. It's worth the risk. You're one kid, you run it with one, you run it with two, you run it with three. You start with your own, you start posting it. You get one more from that, you build it from there. Um, Business is, in all honesty, you have to be relentless. You have to be so confident in yourself. You have to fake it till you make it. You have to be the person who's willing to research in places that you didn't ever think that you would. I mean, there's a lot of putting vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is a huge skill that I think as a society we've lost. We run all of our big kids through entrepreneurship, and actually, we're even next starting the spring, starting with our 6 and 7 year olds. They're starting a pizza business, um, and they're going to sell pizza at the end of this year. And so there's this like innate vulnerability that we all sort of have, but there's this vulnerability in business that you have to be willing to share your dream, and to put it out there for people so that they can join you in your journey and experience what you're doing and create that external investment along with your internal investment. You can't be afraid to ask for the sale. Someone says, I want to come tour your school. You say, when do you want to come? They don't respond. So you wait 3 days, you follow back up and you say, hey, I know you want to come tour. These are the 2 best days for me to come, for you to come. They come out, they don't buy that day. Cool. You wait 3 days. You say, hey, let's catch a phone call. Let's talk about where your kids are at. What do you need? And you're constantly going back and fostering that relationship and that interaction with them. And I think that a lot of school owners that I've seen in these Facebook groups, because you're correct, you're 100% correct. They're teachers turned school owners, right? And they don't know about digital sales or strategy or marketing. And that's okay. That's great. You don't need to know, but you need to keep putting yourself out there, asking for the sale every day, all the time. I tag our Facebook group and our company 7 to 10 times a day in different Facebook groups. I post on our business page, our TikTok, our Instagram, our Facebook, our group. We're starting a book club. There's all these things, and it's relentless and it's exhausting and it's so much. But at the end of the day, when you get to like walk out of your building knowing that you've done what you set out to do, even though it's been so hard and you feel so drained, but yet you're living the dream, whatever your dream is, like that's it. Like that's you're winning and you win every day. And then you just kind of keep chipping away at it, and going after the dream. And eventually marketing becomes like just a natural part of what you're doing.
Yeah, and you are not resting on your laurels. You continue to expand, bring in these new
Yeah.
families. What's next for your microschool
Woo.
over the next year? Kind of sort of short-term and long-term goals and vision for the program.
Yeah, so long-term goal is to get our own warehouse space
Mm.
and flip that into our own building. I want you to walk in and there'd be a rock climbing wall. I want the full ninja course in the lobby when you walk in, full art studio. We do a ton of messy art. That's the big goal, right? Is having our own space and our own building. that we can do all the things we want to do, right? So that's 3 5-year plan. Short-term plan is that we're going to open up another arm for evening and weekends for our public school friends and our
Mm.
private school friends. That is going to work with ages 9 to 13, which is where we see, in our experience, we see the most gap in regards to reading, math, and writing. And we're going to use some different programs. One that we recently stumbled on is a program called Reading Rev, and a lot of it's super hands-on and it's a little bit unconventional in regards to the of teaching education and reading, but it's phonics based. Writing with a Purpose is a program that we are kind of designing a little bit on our own, where you are writing social media content and you're learning grammar and you're writing newsletters and you're writing a podcast and you're writing video content, and all these things that give them the skills and teach the writing that they need to go out in the world and be successful. And then a full math-based entrepreneurship program that really hits on all the things, because even like division is something that you think about the number line, your negative in your bank account. You got to use the number line to pull that, to put back in what you need, right? Division of how many supplies do I need divided by the number of kids I have at the cost and all of those things. So that's next under our summer umbrella that we will launch this summer. And really just anchoring some of our people down into how do we continue to grow programming that fills the gaps for kids and supports confidence driven learning, but also passion driven learning. So we're pretty excited. There's
So
always
exciting.
new pain points I don't even know yet, I'm sure, are coming to the table, but um I like can't wait. I always tell our Facebook group families, like, I love all of you that I know, and I can't wait to meet the ones I haven't yet, because I
Mm.
know there's so many people that will come through our doors that we will support and love on that we've never even had a chance to connect with. So,
Oh, so inspiring. I cannot wait to step foot in that warehouse sooner
yes.
than later. And in the meantime, it's just great to see the growth and excitement around your program. So, Kate, if my listeners and viewers want to learn more about off the page co-learning, connect with you, follow your progress, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so Facebook, don't go to our website. It's still super outdated. I try to update it regularly, but listen, it is literally like the redheaded stepchild that never gets touched. People are like, I was on your website. I'm like, oh, please don't. Please don't do that. So Facebook is a great way. Kate Brockmeyer, all of my posts are public, so you'll know me. It's my white-haired self in my profile photo. So you'll be able to find me that way. Off the page co-learning is our Facebook page. You can hit me there. You can always email me at brockmeyerkate@gmail.com. I'm always open to answer questions. If you are a Microschool owner and you're going to Atlanta, I'll be speaking on marketing this spring at the Hybrid Summit, Kennesaw
Yeah,
State University Shindig.
the National Hybrid
Yeah.
Schools Project conference. So exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing you
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yes, you too, girl.
Amazing.
So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kate, best wishes to you. I'm excited to again follow your progress, to see you in Atlanta in April, and just wishing you so much continued success with off the page co-learning. Kate Brockmeyer, thanks for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.